So if I could start the formal proceedings, my name is Mohammad Saleh. I live in Keene. I have been here for 5 years or so. And first 3 years I was mostly traveling, so practically I have been here for 2 years. So that is a reflection and the power of humanity, that in 2 years I have made friends that responded to this call. And this was a call from an individual to individuals. And as much as we are threatened by the proliferation of social media, I have to say that there's a good in everything, and it could not have been possible without the social media. So if you are afraid of it, please embrace it, because it is powerful if you use it correctly. And I hope it doesn't go to their head that I am giving them. I have 2 kids. They're here, and my wife, we live in Keene. And I am affiliated with other groups and causes, but this is not about any group or any cause. It's not political. This is about individual pleading for other individuals. And I want you, as you go home, take this message, because we have made humanity a commodity. Everything has a currency, and in the political discourse, the humanity has become a commodity. If somebody else is selling it, we don't want to buy it because it is somebody else's product. It is not a commodity. It is in each of us, and we cannot allow that to happen. That was my guiding thought as I was organizing that event. And if I can accomplish that to a small extent, that will be, I think, my ultimate pleasure. So now that I have introduced myself, I will introduce our speakers, Dr. Dottie Morris, and if you could, I don't know if I can.
Oh, so I'm first?
Yeah, no, you mean, no, I'm just.
I thought Larry was first.
Okay.
I always like to follow Larry.
Okay, so no, I was just doing the introduction. So Dr. Dottie Morris, she's the associate vice president. Is that correct? Of the diversity program in Keene State, and she has a great insight about human suffering, social anxiety, and our individual relationship, and so she will reflect on that. And Reverend Michael Hall, he is a leader in the community, will give us his take on this. And Larry Ulkowitz, is that close enough? Okay. Apologize if I. So Larry, I want to give a special thank to Larry, because when I suggested this, I felt this was insane idea, because initial goal was to go to Manchester, where the family is. I thought we would camp outside in the cold, all of us staying until 10 o'clock, sacrificing our Thanksgiving. And maybe people will notice that some people care. Larry saved my friendship with other people, because if we did that, I would have lost all friendship. And so Larry gave the more concrete idea that we could do it here, and our friends would be willing to join. And then he was the big support in promoting this. And he has been living here for a long time. Many of you may know Larry, so I probably could not have done it without Larry. Thank you, Larry. And also, I have to thank the Keene Immigration and Refugee Partnership, the CARP. As you have seen around town, that sign that has the humanity, all are welcome here. I have tried to stay out of that as much as I want to help all progressive causes, because I thought it's best for society when somebody speaks for you. And the fact that most of the members of the CARP are not immigrants, and that shows the humanity in a more powerful way. And I applaud them for what they have done, and the resolution that was passed by City Council. is unbelievable achievement that will So I thank the City Council and the leadership of also the mayor for passing the resolution. I hope that the City Council and the city will do everything in its capacity to implement it across all departments so that tragedy like this does not happen. They have it in their power to ensure that. And I plead, if you want to write letters to the editor, call your city councilor, know them, please call them and let them know that there's the work has to continue to go forward. And so we all probably know this story, but I'll tell you one more time. So October 12th at the city council meeting, I heard the story of Eliezer Iowa, and it just broke my heart. He has been here for 20 years, came here as a minor, and he has 3 kids, 4 kids, including his stepson, and they're all in school age, and he had a flat tire that can happen to any of us, and he was undocumented, and somebody, whether goodwill or fear of a stranger, called the police. Police came, and because he didn't have documentation, he was taken and jailed, and he has been in Boston fighting deportation since then. We do not know whether we will be able to prevent it. The good news is that we heard he's still fighting here. So we have a chance of preventing that from happening. But when I heard that, I felt that the fact that something like this could happen, is it a reflection of our law enforcement only, or is it a reflection of our society that we are allowing this to happen? Maybe because we do not know the suffering of these people. And so I just could not stop thinking about it. And so in desperation, out of all possible things that we could do, and I thought that maybe we'll do something to show solidarity. So if you didn't know the story, you can Google it. The union leader reported this story, and yes, so he has 3 kids. And the other thing I want to, and we'll start the discussion in a few minutes. I have a little bit more in my heart. One of the reasons I did not invite, 2 reasons I did not invite the family. Some people suggested that I should. One was that they probably don't want this trauma. It's traumatic enough. They probably don't want to be here. But I haven't even spoken to them. And the reason was, and that's probably the idealist in me, and I apologize for that, that we all care for people we know. If I have a flat tire, and even if I am undocumented, I think my neighbor will help me. I don't know any neighbor who would not. But we have to care for people that we do not know, haven't seen their face, or don't even know their name. So I didn't have any pictures of them either. That was on purpose. And I hope that people take that message home, and that would be, those are my other thoughts. So I grew up in Indian subcontinent. I'm originally from Bangladesh. So one of the poets in Bangladesh is Tagore, Rabindranath Thakur. Its English is Tagore. He believed in universal humanity, and he was so popular in Europe that during the Second World War, a lot of soldiers carried his pocketbook called Gitanjali in their pocket. A lot of dead soldiers arrived with the Gitanjali, and he was the first Asian to win Nobel Prize in 1993. And if you Google it, there is a great dialogue between Tagore and Einstein, between philosophy, religion, spirituality. There is book about it. But I want to share a quote from him. When people asked him, he died in 1941, about the status of humanity in the middle of the war, he said, "As I look around, I see the crumbling ruins of civilization, like a vast heap of futility, but I shall not commit the grievous sin of losing faith in man." So thank you all for reaffirming my faith in humanity. And I hope you don't lose yours. So at this point, I will apologize for. At this point, I will ask Larry to share his thoughts, anything you want to hear, maybe make the Thanksgiving a little bit more pleasant. And I apologize for adding sadness to your day, because this is a day of celebration. We are all lucky to have a wonderful family, and we have good life. But maybe it's time to have that little discomfort. So at the end of the day, if you live with the discomfort, please forgive me. But let that discomfort linger in you and be a force for greater change in society. Larry, please.
Just touching. Oh gosh, thanks. I'm overwhelmed. Can you hear me? Forward. Forward. There we go. Great. Someone said earlier that they gave up running in the turkey race this morning, and I didn't. I'm a little embarrassed that I. Thanks. The last few weeks have been just incredible. The last month, few weeks, I've been involved in a variety of projects, and one has been with the Keene Immigration and Refugee Partnership. I see some of the faces out there, and it's just been remarkable. It's just been every Sunday getting together and just working this through that led to the resolution in the city council to protect immigrants. Mohammed's project, which just started about a week or two ago, and jumping on board, and also other projects, following Dottie Morris up to Claremont after some racist acts up there, and watching Dottie corral the community and really run town meetings, and just incredible work. And I guess what I want to say is that in some of these activities, I've been, in one of them I was kind of a leader, I guess, or more maybe a pain in the neck. But in the others, I think I was more of a follower. And I was the guy, I was talking to Joe Shapiro earlier, I said, yeah, I was the guy who opened the door every Sunday to Rhodes Hall on the campus so we could meet. That was my job. And I guess what I want to say is I think that I want to say a couple of things, and Mohammed asked if I could use my role as a psychologist. Of course, Dottie's also a psychologist, so we have two shrinks here. Okay, I'll speak up. Is that I've learned in the last few weeks, I have a few insights. One is that being a follower is important, and that there are no leaders without followers. And I think followers has some negative connotations, but I think that sometimes just showing up and using your and hitting people near you, and using your body as sometimes as a weapon and sometimes just to be present matters. And so, when Mohammed said, let's do this thing about a week or so ago, I said, I'm right behind you, Mohammed. What do you need? The other is persistence. Mr. Magic, how many remember Mr. Magic from the late 70s? He was a rapper from the Ninth Ward in New Orleans. Dottie, you're from New Orleans.
Yeah, no.
Mr. Magic said that persistence is the antidote to resistance. And I heard that line uttered by KRS-One when he came to campus a few years ago, and man, I keep thinking about that just keeping at it and watching the Kirk group just week after week, and sometimes it didn't look so good, but we just kept at it as a group. So I think that matters. Also, authenticity. Just really, when who you are as a person comes through in the work you're doing, then people really do connect. And I've watched Mohammad and I've watched Dottie Morris at work, and you just really get this feeling that it's who they are doing this work, and it's just amazing. In psychology, we talk about empathy and warmth and genuineness. Those are terms I hear Mohammad refer to. And when you get in touch with those qualities, as Carl Rogers said, people really do connect with you, and they feel that you understand where they're coming from. So I wanted to mention those things. Just a couple of other things as a psychologist that, as we talk about immigration, I think that, I'm obsessed with this idea of how we think and cognition, and I think there's a couple of errors that people make, and I think we all make these errors in our personal relationships, in politics, in social analyses, and one is a kind of dichotomous thinking. I was just talking to somebody out in the hallway about this, where he thought about this, but a kind of light bulb thinking, like the light is either on or off, as if there's no gray area, and people are either good or bad. I'm hearing that a lot, oh, the good guys and the bad guys. People are either, up or down, some sort of dichotomous thinking. But I think that there's a lot of richness and diversity of ideas in that gray area in the middle, That's where there's a lot of interesting stuff. The other is overgeneralization. That I call it the ink blot error. A little drop of ink touches a tissue and it just spreads, So we hear about, say, a person from another country and they commit a crime, and a lot of us think, oh, that's all immigrants do is commit crimes or something, and it's just an incorrect way of thinking, right? And so we have to question those thoughts when we make those errors ourselves. Does one event really mean that it happens everywhere? Is that really the truth? Thank you for nodding. I appreciate it. It's reinforcing. And then finally, emotional reasoning. Just because I feel it, therefore it's true. And sometimes we can feel discomfort being with people who are very different from us in terms of how they look or how their accents, and we can feel nervous. But maybe we need to ask ourselves, maybe we have a lot in common with those people, even though superficially there are things that are different. We have to challenge ourselves to ask ourselves that. I numbered my pages incorrectly. And I ran with it in my pocket this morning at the turkey race, so the ink is running. I just want to say these are tough times. These are dangerous times, but I think that there's opportunity when there's crises. And Mohammad talks about that all the time. Where's the positive? Where's the opportunity? I fear that we're in an era of a kind of slow violence. Think about that term. That's my daughter, Annika, gave me that idea of slow violence, that, we just sort of slowly accept a lot of things that are going on right here in Keene, that are going on right here in New Hampshire. And our lives are sort of okay. We can sort of move forward even though these things are happening. But I think these are opportunities for us to question our own assumptions, to reflect on being a follower, that being a follower may be a really good thing, and sometimes being a leader. And I think that if we can just do that, and if we can take action, and then maybe, and Mohammed kind of gave me this idea, it's not just for our children that we're doing this. It's not just for our kids, because I keep telling Mohammed, I'm doing it for my kid. And he goes, I think you're doing it for humanity, Larry. So thank you. That's what I wanted to say. Mohammed has asked me to read this message that just came from Jean Shaheen, our senator. Dear friends, thank you to Mohammad Saleh, the Keene Immigrant and Refugee Partnership, and the Keene Public Library for the invitation to join you for this afternoon's Thanksgiving Day event. Thanksgiving is a time set aside to celebrate togetherness and invite reflection on blessings to be grateful for. The holiday has its roots in the stories of European pilgrims who sought a new future in a land free of religious persecution. Thanksgiving is a nationwide tradition that we've come to practice as an American family each year. In taking stock of the gifts of family, friends, and good health, we are reminded that there are some around us who are less fortunate. It's a testament to your faith, your charity, and your decency that you have chosen to spend part of your day here in solidarity with friends and neighbors. This is the spirit that compels you to sacrifice something precious, time with your family on Thanksgiving, to be here today and see what you can do to reunite a father separated from his wife and children. Your compassion and your efforts will raise awareness of your goal to ensure that no more families are separated in the future, and to see that people seeking a better future in this country are treated consistent with the values this country was founded on. My best wishes to all of you in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Jean Shaheen, United States Senator.
So thanks, Senator Shaheen. I have expressed my gratitude to her staff. And in fairness, we reached to both senators, and I've heard positive comments from Senator Maggie Hassan's staff as well. And I have also reached out to the governor and talked to the staff. A couple of days ago, I made multiple calls, because this is not partisan, and I will continue to reach out to, and I just said I'm an individual doing this, and they're all very welcoming. So what I have learned that if we ask, people are willing to help, but sometimes we don't have that faith in us that maybe we'll not get help. And so if you know people, please ask, because people are willing to help. At this point, I want to also share, and we are curious about the state of the family. So I have been, and that is also because of this event. Before the event, we really did not have any idea other than hearing it on the news media. But as I created the event, somebody shared it, and then it got reshared, and within a couple of hours, I heard from the family, friend's family, April, and she is the one who has set up the GoFundMe page. And she has been, from time to time, helping the family. And there is another group of people in Deerfield, where it happened, in Manchester area, that are continuously trying to support. So as we are working on this event, we have been in touch with those groups, and they're all traveling, they're scattered. We started it late, but we have talked about combining our forces after the event, and then the families are aware that we are, preaching, spreading the word. So we'll have more updates. If you are signed up to the event, continue to follow, and you can go to the CARP website, or you can personally email me. My email is at the library place. I will do everything I can. There are pages, if those of you came late, on the table, at the end, that has the GoFundMe page, and you can just grab one on your way. If you forget, just Google his first name and GoFundMe, and you will find the link. Please donate generously. They need the help. And the senator's office, Jean Shahin's office, also suggested that they are willing to help every way they could. So this event, even though it was intended to just have a awareness and consciousness, may have potentially, we don't want to overpromise. That's why I haven't told the family anything, because the last thing they need is false promise. But we'll do everything we can, and I believe our plan is to have kind of a subgroup within CARP, because CARP has other issues they're pursuing that will be dedicated to liberate Eliezer Ayala. So if you would like to join, continue, and reach out to CARP or myself. So with those comments, I would at this point ask Reverend Michael Hall to make some comments.
Good morning. Happy Thanksgiving. You know, I came here to Keene 5 years ago, and what I had been doing for almost 20 years before that was actually portraying some of the pilgrims, including Enid's great grandfather and mother. And so this day has always meant a number of different things for me. First of all, work. And being not only with my family, but with my larger family of co-workers and strangers, visitors coming from all over the place. Some of them famous, some of them not famous, some of them local, some of them from around the world. About 4,000 or more on Thanksgiving Day. And over the years, I went through different feelings about this particular holiday. And I think some may share that, some of those feelings, that Thanksgiving has represented a number of things, and some of them, it seemed to me, more fairy tale than truth about our country. The beautiful picture of the pilgrims at table with their prayers and the native people around. And if you look at some of those pictures, they're on blankets on the ground and the pilgrims are up at a table. And that was something that over the years we tried to upend a little bit, because the story is a lot more, as most history is, a lot more nuanced than just, well, we got together because we'd grown some corn. And yet, there were times as well when that was absolutely what it was all about. The story winds back and we see that a group of people who had themselves been emigres into a foreign country, had lived in the Netherlands, and had tried to get away to that place so that they could worship the way they wanted to, didn't really feel perhaps as welcomed into that culture as they might have been if they had just stayed home and given up their worship. And that's part of the truth as well. They didn't have a lot, and they gave up just about everything to come to a new place where they thought they would be unharmed and unimpeded in doing their thing. But then they'd forgotten, of course, that there were actually people already here. And thankfully, those people didn't attack them, didn't try to overthrow them, didn't do anything more than watch them for a while, and then seeing that they were a small band and seemed to be peaceful despite the guns, to welcome them and to make treaty with them and to make peace with them. And yes, to share that first Thanksgiving and many others later on. There was a time when I really spent a lot of time thinking just about that first Thanksgiving and what came next and what it meant to be an American in the light of that original story, because the sequel wasn't always so kind. The sequel wasn't always so loving. The sequel wasn't always so let's get together and everything will be all right. Succeeding bands of people came, and each were less welcome. The original folks that were those whose land it was were moved further and further and sanctioned and segregated, and this is part of the story too. And if I'm going to get anywhere and talk about Thanksgiving in any way, I owe it to myself and to you to speak what little truth we know, and that is, there has been much glory, and then there has been much indignity done. And Eleazar's story is yet another remembrance of the indignities that are done on people, upon people who try to come here and for their own reasons, a better living, more safety, the opportunity to have family and children and worship and all of those things that I know I do take for granted on a near daily basis. We need to remember that too. We need to remember that maybe your ancestors or mine were welcomed at Ellis Island with a chalk mark or two, and one chalk mark said, "Go to America." The other one said, "Let's send them back." We need to remember these things, I think. But this is sacred time that we are taking today, time that is sacred to us because it's a day off, because we have families, because we have friends, because there is a bountiful earth and many people we will never know, making sure that we have the corn that goes into our bread and that the turkey or whatever it is, the turducken or whatever it is you have on your table. It's sacred time too because your ancestors, my ancestors, people like Eleazar and his family and so many countless others came here for the opportunity to be able to be American, whatever that may be. It's sacred time because we have a bounteous earth that we live in and because we don't always treat her very well. It's dedicated time. It's a shared time we take together this morning. We take together on days so rare it is, I think, for us to say thanks, even though we might mean it a good deal more. And it's a loving time. Hopefully, it's a loving time for all of us. Because as the great philosopher Jimi Hendrix said, when the power of love is greater than the love of power, then we'll know peace. And only then will we know peace. You know, the name Eleazar means God is help. God is help. And I think in the case of Eleazar and others like him, we have to do a little bit more than hope that God will help them. Because in this instance, in this country, in this city, we are the help that God needs, that Eleazar needs, that we need to be a better people and to actually form a more perfect union right here in Keene. A lot of times people trouble themselves over the way of the world and that, you know, what can we do? Well, you've already heard things that have been done here in Keene, and it's a good start. But we can't stop. We can't ever stop because the way of the world is the way of making you feel like you haven't the ability to make a change. And love is the change that we need. Love is in our hearts. And our faith in humanity must be the faith that we have, that we would want to do for others what we would have them do for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Since this event got attention, I have heard so many stories. Recently, I have heard from a family that lives in Keene, a person that was undocumented for many years, 10, 15 years, because they're waiting for the legal process. Right? Some people sometimes wonder that why didn't just they take the trouble? It's not that easy. I haven't been through that trouble, but I'm sure it's very difficult. And so there is a remarkable story I heard. And if you are standing behind the back, I apologize, we ran out of room. Please move forward and let others come in. But there is this story I heard that this individual who recently got legalized, and sometime in all these 15 years, once he was stopped by the police. And he didn't have his documentation. And the police, he was honest about it, that, yeah, I don't have, and I am undocumented. And the police said, well, good luck, and let him go and let him free. So we do have a choice, and there is a question of morality. And what I want to talk about, and I've been thinking about it for quite some time, that all of us seek comfort in the veil of law, because it is very troubling, and we need something that comforts us. So it's like a blanket that we say, oh, this is the law, what could we do? And I hope that this message will spread, people will watch it on YouTube, and those of us who are legislature, I think it's time that we take that veil and face the suffering and the pain. And as I kept organizing, all sorts of analogies and stories goes through my mind. But the one thing that I related most is the story in the Victor Hugo's novel, the Miserable One. I don't speak French, so you know which novel I'm talking about. The protagonist, Jean Valjean, the opening scene of that novel is this man who served 19 years in prison. And then 5 years of that was for stealing a loaf of bread for his starving family. And then other 14 years was for audacity to escape the prison. He got other 14 years for that. And Victor Hugo and Hank and I talked about this. And he, Dr. Hank Knight, he has a beautiful statement written. I have copies if you want to take it. And he reflects on, he apologizes that he couldn't be here today. That Victor Hugo wrote that novel to focus on the ridiculousness of the social rules and regulation. And the reality is that the society has always, the legislatures have always been behind the curve of social justice. And the faster, if we want to move faster, we should be aware of that. We're behind, and we should not seek comfort behind that veil of law. And as this message reaches our legislature, I plead to everyone in our city, state, across the nation, please don't use that veil. So. At this moment, I would ask Dr. Morris to share her thoughts, and Dr. Morris also shares her unique way of engaging people and having interacting conversation. I would like to remind people that those of us who want to leave, we promise that if you just show up in solidarity, that's what this was all about. There are pages that has the GoFundMe page, and there is a notebook if you want to write your name. If you are not on social media, please write your name. If you're on social media, I'm on Facebook. You can find me. CARP is on Facebook and internet. Please write to me. I will personally respond to each one of your messages. So we promise that at 11:30 our focus discussion ends, but we can continue. Those of us who want to stay, we're staying here until 12. So Dottie, when you were having the conversation, at 11:30 we'll take a break, and so we'll kind of formally wrap up, and then we will continue the discussion beyond that. So thank you, Dottie.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I try to project as much as I possibly can. I have to thank the folks at the Christian Baptist Church in Louisiana for teaching us that at a very young age. As small children, we were expected to be able to speak before crowds of people, even the shy ones, as I was. But I want to start off by just taking a moment to give thanks to the original inhabitants of this land that we all walk on every single day. I think that we don't give enough thanks to what occurred here and those people's sacrifice in allowing us to be here. Some of us came by choice, others of us came by force, and we're all here right now. So I just want to take a moment to do that, to really allow their presence, and some of you may be their presence physically, to be here with us today, and that we give that thanks. Thanks. One of the questions that I would be asked every day, and I wasn't alone, but for 4 years by the president of my university down in Louisiana, and he would ask you every single time he saw you as he walked across campus, why are you here? And he didn't mean, why were you just walking across campus in front of Stern Hall at that particular moment? But he was constantly asking us to ask ourselves, why do we grace this planet? So I'm gonna ask you to turn to the person next to you. And for just a minute, explore that question of why do you think you are here? And you could basically say, because my mother made me come, because that's probably what happened. And that would be sufficient. Okay? Because sometimes our mothers will make us do things that it's not until like 30 years later we realize, I'm so happy she made me go to X, Y, or Z. So just take a minute. Why are you here? Why are you here? Come on. Just a minute. I'm serious. Talk to the person next to you. Okay. All right. Okay. So what are some reasons? Okay. What are some reasons why people stated why they were here? And you could define it any way you needed to define why you're here. That's why it's open-ended. So what were some answers? What were some musings that people shared with another person? So if you could just raise your hand and I hate pointing at people, but since I don't know your name, I'll have to point.
To stop choosing to be white.
To stop choosing to be white. Uh-oh. I think Sister Wolf will have something to say about that one. Okay, to stop choosing to be white. And again, acknowledge who said it. And if you don't know exactly what he's talking about, after this, approach him and say, that's curious. Okay, why are other people here? Yes.
I think one of the stories we shared is also mine is that some of us are grandchildren or great-grandchildren of people who were undocumented immigrants who came here, and we feel very fortunate that we got to have lives here as a result of that, and it makes us think what they lived through.
Okay, so basically some people are here in solidarity because their ancestors were in the position of being undocumented, and therefore, because of a choice that they made, you are here now. Okay? Yes, in the back.
I'm here because I think and feel a lot about all that is going on, but I don't know a lot. And so just the act of stepping out and coming today.
Okay.
Maybe it's my first step.
So,
Not just think and feel, but get out and do.
right. So you're thinking, I can think about this all day long and ruminate over it and be upset about it and cry about it and be angry about it. And you're saying, I decided to step out of that to be in community with other people today, to start taking action.
And hopefully make it a stepping stone to being more active.
Okay. Anybody else? I saw another hand. Yes, ma'am.
We came to share our hearts with other like-minded hearts.
Sharing hearts with other like-minded hearts. Others? Yes, sir.
I came to this, and I'll go to other events, to make sure that what my family got 100 years ago when they came here is what people who come here now get,
Okay.
which is the extraordinary opportunities.
So you believe in equity, that everyone gets what they need to get in order to have a fruitful life.
That's what makes America great.
That's what makes America great. Okay? And you notice I didn't say equality. And we could talk about that later. That's another discussion altogether. But I said equity in a very intentional way. Yes, ma'am.
To show support for people in my community, such as Mohammad stepping forward to gather people together on this holiday, and there's a lot of effort behind the scenes, and it's a fantastic showing, and to acknowledge the efforts of people.
So show support for each other, because that's what we do for each other. We have each other's back within a true community, right? Okay. So that's one reason you came. Yes.
I share all of those sentiments, solidarity, supporting my friend Mohammed, and many of the people in the room here. But we apparently decided to take it, or someone decided to take it a step further with the solidarity, and we experienced getting a flat tire.
Curious.
That's why I'm late. So, anyway, so now I feel everything's sort of up in the air. Do we drive to Vermont, and maybe we are going to actually separate from our family, as we thought. We were just making this small sacrifice to come
Right.
to this. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Okay. Nothing happens by accident. Keep that in mind. There are no accidents. Yes.
I'm a first-generation American child of refugees who were fortunate enough to be allowed in. Many who didn't went to their deaths.
Right. So did you hear that? I'm repeating things not because they're my own words, but I'm repeating them for people who can't hear in the back. It was said that they are here because their family came here as refugees, and they were fortunate enough to be accepted within the United States, because a lot of the people who couldn't come went to their death.
I'm here because I want to be part of a community that's trying to understand more and be a little kinder and practice more mindful living. So it's sort of very selfishly, I don't want to be feeling what I'm feeling in isolation.
Excellent. So no feelings in isolation. You want to come within a caring community, a caring, supportive community where we can be our better selves, because we're a lot stronger together than as individuals. Okay? Yes, sir. Yes. All the way. Yeah.
I'm here to see if I can help someone who's in an unfortunate situation through no fault of their own, and to see if there's anything I can do to provide some support.
Okay. So to help in any way possible. Yes.
Well, I disagree on one thing.
Okay.
Mistake. I think I was a mistake, and my parents didn't plan on me and stuff like that. And I was born disabled and had a lot of trouble. But be that as it may, I'm here because they call it a great endeavor.
The great endeavor.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I really feel for all these situations. You know, it's really wonderful to hear positive things, because there's so much negativity in my head, and I had experiences of real horrors for humanity, and I want to be on the side of the positive.
So that's the great endeavor, to be on the side of the positive, because there's so many things that roam around in all of our heads that really tell us the other story, a counter narrative that there's no hope. But you say, I'm here because I believe that there's something greater happening and you want to be a part of it. And I'm so happy you're here. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, in the back, way in the back, Bart.
Yes, I'm here because I'm an immigrant, and I asked my kids to be here as well. They're born in the United States, so I wanted to understand the relationship.
Okay. So the whole idea of being an immigrant to the country, having children, bear witness to the experiences of their parents. And I think that whole idea of bearing witness, we underplay the significance of what it means to bear witness. And then we have to do something with that. Okay? Anyone else? Yes, Vicki.
I'm here because, like Larry so eloquently put it, I'm so concerned about the slow violence that is happening in our country right now. Since the election, I have been angry, and I have been working to keep people from getting hurt. And I believe that the follower is the most powerful role we need to take. We have leaders. We have people that we can follow. We have really smart people we can follow. And they're here in this room. And I'm so grateful to be here on this day. So that I just wanted to express that.
Right. And I was thinking about people that I look to inspire me on those days when it's hard to get out of bed. And no surprise, one of them is Martin Luther King Jr. And I think that the thing that I hold so deeply that he talks about is that we all have to have that drum major mentality. We all have to have it. So it's not just the leader, because you can take out a leader and the movement will stop. But if everyone believes that in some way that they are, that if I don't do my part, this whole movement will fall apart. We have to have that mentality. And the work that you do is so critical within this community. And the work that all of us do, including these small children who were forced to come here, as they smile. Even they have a very vital part, if no more than to motivate us to say we're not stopping. So those babies have a major role. So they are little drum majors. So I think that I appreciate what you said about people who are sitting here as the leaders or elected officials or whatever, you want to call the leader. I don't even know what a leader is. All I know is we all are, and we all have a very significant role to lead. That's just my piece. Yes.
I think that kindness is an unbeatable force seeking communities.
Kindness is seeking to be released. Beautiful.
So I want to speak with some authenticity along what Larry said, and it's a little hard for me, but I think I'm here for some healing because my children are Latin American and I moved here when they were young teens, and I've had to do a lot of work with them, a lot of pain, and a lot of struggles they've had. And my daughter actually, we live near where the helicopters pass over to go to the hospital. And when she heard them for a while, she almost had a breakdown. Because she said they're coming to get me and Latin Americans because they don't like us here. And I've had to do a lot of work. She's still not better. There's a lot of people in our community. I was a little bit working with her, and it's not perfect. There's a lot of healing we can do here in our community. So I want to thank people who are out here, and some of the people who are feeling this are invisible. You don't know it walking around. You don't know who it is, but there are people in pain in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. The whole idea about healing, and what better place than in community with other people? And I think that you have two beautiful children that I've had the honor of meeting. Anybody else? Yes.
I'd like to advance the notion that as long as your motives for being here and your conduct is honorable, the rest of us really have no reason to fear you.
So the whole idea around the narrative that certain people are to be feared, even though they haven't done anything but just try to be a part of the community, we need to question that. Yes, ma'am.
We work with the homeless, and in many ways, the immigrants and the homeless are very comparable. They're both shunned or feel shunned by our society, and I'd like to express that.
Okay. So you wanted to just be sure that we acknowledge the plight of people who are homeless and the way that they are treated within the community. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I guess I've been reading a lot about stepping outside of the I mentality that I get stuck in, and so many of us do, and stepping into the we mentality, recognizing the interdependence that we have on each other and how interconnected we all are as a planet. We need each other.
Right. So the whole idea of we, interconnected, interdependent, that's a key one as well. Right. Yes, in the back.
Here, I've had the experiences, you talk about bearing witness, and I've witnessed the conditions that a lot of immigrants are fleeing, and it's not an image that you can shake once you've seen it. I've had children begging for empty water bottles because they had no toys to play with, so they could pull them up and make soccer balls out of them. I mean, it's not
So this whole idea about bearing witness, once you see it, it can't go unseen. And the whole idea of now, what do I do with what I've seen to create a different reality for people? Because in a lot of ways, you're helping yourself. Anybody else? Yes, way in the back, against the wall, holding up the wall.
Yes, well, I'm a person of deep faith, and I think I'm here because this is where I believe the chance would be. And I've been given much, and much is required of the United States.
Because of your faith, you would believe that an important figure, Jesus, would be in this place in this particular moment with all of us. Yes, sir.
So I'm here actually from the farthest, probably I drove about 3 hours this morning to join this. One thing I know Mohammad is a friend of mine, but the real I came here, I wanted to show my support that I do care. And the other thing that I really believe that, none of us know what would be the next situation that we could be in. So today, we have a father who is in a situation in his house. Tomorrow morning, I take kids sitting next to me. They might be in help. And then at that point, I would be wishing that someone else has, showed their support. So I think that reciprocity that you have there, it always comes back. So I do feel that all of us being here, providing support, maybe one day when you might need support, someone else to continue that support. So that's right. Yeah.
So the whole idea that today it's an immigrant, but tomorrow it could be any of us for any reason. And how do we support each other? And like someone said earlier, have each other's back. Yes.
I just wanted to remind us all of Jonathan Daniels, who grew up 75 yards from this room, who did extraordinary things. And I ask myself often over the last couple of years, what would he do in this situation when I feel powerless? What little thing can make me better?
And this whole idea of looking to people within the community to say, I'm sure he was just a regular kid growing up who decided to do an extraordinary thing. And so if we could look and say that people that we see who are figures like Keene and all of these people, they were probably just regular little people who decided to do something extraordinary. And so we all have it within us. We all have it within us. No one of us don't, I believe. I think we all have it in us for greatness. And it just doesn't mean publishing a book or anything like that. Yes, sir.
Well, this was just something a poet had said that I caught a few months ago at Mobile Theater, but it just brought the whole thing kind of home for me. That just that we're all just, a famine or a war from being a refuge.
That's it. That's it. So that whole idea that we could all be in a condition where we have to migrate. Yes, ma'am.
It's hard for me to speak, and I'm going to try to say it. There's a lot I want to say. About 14 years ago, the first time I met some immigrants in Keene, and I met so many of them. And it's my passion to walk with them, to help them, and open my eyes to a lot of things. Obviously, I'm married now, and we have children. Another thing is we have my stepson who's been petitioning to come here legally for 13 years now. 13 years actually. So this is, I thought maybe I was put here somehow, some way to connect all of us who don't know the people who, sometimes we're afraid to talk to them here, there's a language barrier, right? So, I really want to educate people what even happens in Keene, because there's a lot, and a lot of people don't even hear, they won't talk, they won't come here. They won't, even though you guys might be something, they won't know.
So the whole idea of, once again, that bearing witness, but beyond bearing witness, giving testimony, or allowing for people to know that it's not just in Manchester, that it's right here in River City, right here in Keene, where we have individuals who are living under constant fear because of their status and how related to their immigration status. So you want to be able to make that very clear.
That's correct. Maybe go a little further than that. It's really hard from there to point everything. But there's just so many things that people just don't know. In line, whatnot. Do you know that you have family members to even come to America before? You can't just say, oh, I'm coming to America, and you don't have to give copies. You know, a lot of it is a lot because people just don't know. I don't know where it comes from or who's telling them. Oh, all the illegals are welcome.
Right.
But yet in New Hampshire, illegals can't apply for welfare. You have to be a citizen.
So what you want to do is dispel some of the misinformation. Kind of like, yeah, okay. So, and I want to respect your time. It's 11:35. We could continue in this larger format, or if you need to leave.
We can go for another 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to.
If people wants to leave, please feel free to do so.
Okay. All righty. Yes, sir.
I'm here because I believe that truth matters.
Mhm.
And the truth about many immigrants being in our country is that we, not necessarily in your and my name, but that as a country have meddled in other countries' affairs, have basically upset and often destroyed other countries, which means that lots of immigrants who were leading a possible life in their country were forced to do the best they could and come here. Let's not forget this.
Okay. So part of what you're saying is let's look at the root of what's going on rather than the outcome. Because what we see is a lot of people being relocated because of conditions within their country. And you're saying we have to look at the impact that the U.S. government has had on those countries that creates the necessity for people to relocate. Okay, I'm with you. So we have to do a critical analysis of our role as opposed to just looking at the result of it. And so oftentimes we do kind of, quote, blame the victim. And you're saying, no, we have to tell the truth about what we've done to create these conditions. I added something, didn't I? I'm sorry. Uh-huh.
But I think that I want to thank everybody that's here, the speakers and all the families, the young children, and everybody that's taking their time on Thanksgiving to be here for this important cause. And I'd like to challenge everybody to do something to help in some way, whether it's just talking to somebody or getting on a committee or donating, or if everybody here help, there'll be a ripple effect, and have those people help to pay it forward, and I think we'll be a better place for all of us.
That's really. Anyone else? Yes.
Joy, I just want to ask if there's time allowed. There are so many people who are already doing active things in this community that are in this room, and if there's a chance for just one person to say what those things are, then and possibly the library can have a list of those things, and you can walk out of here knowing that you have that information.
Okay. So what things are already happening? Because I think sometimes we think, I'm the only one interested in this. And basically what you're saying is how do we connect and network each other? Okay, we could do. Okay.
I'll speak more to that.
Okay. All right. Well, I can tell you why I'm here for a couple reasons. One is one of my favorite civil rights people was someone you may or may not have heard of. She didn't have a formal education. I think she went to 6th grade. But one thing that she said was, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think that that's where a lot of you are coming from. And then I combine that with another quote, and her name was Fannie Lou Hamer. Another person that I look to is Angela Davis, and she said that she was no longer accepting things that she couldn't change. She had decided to change things that she could no longer accept. And as a descendant of people who understand the meaning of ripping families apart for economic gain, I could no longer sit on the bench on this one to know that someone would be ripped from their families, because it has intergenerational effects when families are ripped apart. And so when we think about how we are engaging in this process yet again as a country, and it's legal, we can't rely on the laws to serve as our moral compass, because you remember the arc of the moral universe is long, but guess where it bends? Towards justice. It doesn't bend towards laws, it bends towards justice. So we have to figure out, why are we here today? And what do we do to contribute to creating a different world? Because another world is possible. Because we've been led to believe that another world isn't possible. That's part of the big brainwashing that we've been given. But I know deep in my heart that we don't have to live this way. It ain't just the way things are. It's the way that we have created them. So if we've created them, we can definitely dismantle them. And I think that I can't think of a better place I would want to be today. I can't think of a better place I would want to be. I've been in this community. I was supposed to be in this community 5 years. That was my plan back in 1996 when I moved here. I'm going to stay 5 years and I'm out of here because I don't know about these people. I don't quite get them. I come from another land. But again, as I said earlier, there are no accidents that I'm still here. And I can't think of a better place I would want to be. And I give thanks every single day. So every day is Thanksgiving for me. Every day is Thanksgiving. So I was so moved and honored when Mohammad called me the other day to ask me to be a part of this, because I kept thinking that I don't want to be anywhere else. I want to be with y'all. And so I'm really happy I was here. So I think that we have to start deconstructing, dismantling, and refusing to believe that this has to be where families are being ripped apart, where people are being ripped from this land that they've grown to love and to take care of in so many ways. And I also want to warn you about the media, too. And this was something that Malcolm X said that I thought was so powerful. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and make the guilty innocent. That's power, because they control the minds of the masses. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. So I'm going to ask you, if you don't do anything else, is just be mindful of what you read and the person's motivations who's writing it. Because everyone has motivation. I have a motivation. I'm not going to lie. I have a reason that I'm here today. There's nothing up the sleeve that I chose certain things. So we have to do that. But I'm going to leave you with a couple questions, because Mohammad asked me to leave you with going off to do some things. And I always think about Audre Lorde when she talks about how do we transform silence into language and then language into action. So I have just a couple questions I want to leave you with and for you to think about. So think of your favorite social justice activist from the past, or your favorite superhero. Okay? Or your favorite hero in a book, or Shiro in the words of Janetta Clow. What do you think they would say about this moment that we're living in related to immigration? What would they say? What would they say? And then not only what would they say, but what do you think they would do? how would they inspire us to do something? Okay, that superhero, Wonder Woman, and Thor, and all those people, you know what I mean? Okay. How do you plan to break your silence and transform your silence into language and your language then into action? So just think about, how do you plan? Because as the person in the back, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, said, there are certain people who are not able to speak out of fear or out of concern of some sort. But how do you take whatever silence you have and transform that into some type of language, and then take that language and transform it into action? And how do you plan to show up as an active witness and participant? Active witness and participant. And how do you plan to use that to work in solidarity with other people, given the idea that in history these things have escalated and have had an impact on other groups, as we've already said. So in other words, how do you plan to do what my mother said? Nip it in the bud. And last but not least, what are some things you will need from this community? Because we have a community of people in here, in order to make what you have thought about, make it happen. I know those are a lot of questions, and I could send them out on, because we have your email address, but I really want you to think about that. And so this whole idea of joining together and coming together on this beautiful Thursday, thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of it.
Thank you, Dottie. There's one thing that somebody raised, and I kind of brushed it aside as I was making my opening remarks, that is the root cause of this. And we can have empathy, we can feel passion, and we can feel sad, but unless we identify the root cause and in our own mind process the conflicts that arises from the root cause, we will not be able to resolve it. And so the root cause is the economic anxiety, and somehow we find justification that, well, maybe this suffering is worthwhile, that maybe my life is a little bit better because of this one person's suffering. It's very unpleasant thought, but that is the root cause. But we do not want to talk about it because it's too unpleasant and too uncivil to talk about it. And I didn't write that in the narrative I wrote for the library, but you're my friend, so I'm telling you now. And so I thought that maybe I'm as guilty of contributing to that notion and that fundamental irrationality that exists in our culture and thought. So that's why I thought we have to get in the habit of giving up something, because we all want social justice, but nothing in life is free. Social justice has a price too. And we have to ask ourselves how much price we are willing to pay for it. And we started by sacrificing 2 hours of Thanksgiving, but let's not that be the end of it. As you spread the word to your friends and ask them to ask themselves that how much are they willing to sacrifice? Maybe pay a little bit on something or something, right? At the end of the day, there are other peoples who benefit from human suffering. And they want us to believe that we do not have humanity in us because it benefits them. And we can't let that narrative win. And so I just wanted to add that thought, and I dedicated this event to Jonathan Daniel. I am so honored to, my fate has landed me to this city, and Jonathan Daniel inspired me, and I think he captured the sentiment of all of us when in this statement, which is at the sign of the carp. He said, and this is coming from a 22-year-old man. I was just so touched by the gravity of his. He said, I could not stand by in benevolent dispassion any longer without compromising everything I know and love and value. So we are all benevolent, but sometimes we are also dispassionate. And the goal of today's event was to get that dispassion out of us and take this passion and talk to your friends, brag them a little. You know, at the fear of losing my friendship, another thing that has permeated in our culture, that being preachy is considered uncool. You don't want to go to a party and talk about social justice. You know, that's not really cool. And as I was saying, you know, my friends, let's go to Manchester and suffer in the cold in the tent, I knew that comes like little insanity. But I'm not afraid to, I have faith in my friends. I have faith in humanity. I know they will forgive me. So have faith in your friends, they will forgive you. Talk about it. We sometimes do not give our friends enough credit. They have actually, they're very forgiving, as you have shown today by sacrificing your 2 hours. So one other comment, my good friend Nancy Saron, he bought this wonderful instrument. Those of us who came early heard this. She sacrificed and bought the instrument. I thank you. And in concluding remarks, I want to go back to Tagore because he has formed my mind, so to speak, so I'm trapped by that little bit. So he said, this is the Nobel laureate, the first Nobel laureate from Asia, the subcontinent. He was the poet for the world. He said, beauty is when you see things through the eyes of love. If you don't see things through eyes of love, there is no beauty. Beauty is what you see things through eyes of love. So everything we value and treasure that are beautiful in life, whether people, music, friendship, we are seeing through the eyes of love. And just by pure coincidence, I did not know this quote. As this week, I was stumbling through pages, I just came across this, and I realized, what is love? I questioned myself, what is love? Love is humanity. We are talking about humanity, but we haven't defined it. It's the love in us, that's what is the core of humanity. So when you deny humanity, you deny love, you lose love. And you lose everything that's beautiful in our heart, in our culture, in our poetry, music. So it's just the whole civilization is built on that. And I just came to, the more I worked on this project, I just came to realize that the much more, it's not just this one person whom we will all try and help. This is much more at stake. It's the core of our human existence and everything that we value and treasure. So thank you all for listening and forgiving me for my sometime overbearing. I opened my heart a little bit. And please take, as you walk from this gathering, please spread the word, and I will create a subgroup and work on the liberation of Eliezer Ayla, and this is just a beginning. And the paper is in the back. Please take it, but I will say one more time, and those of you who may watch it on YouTube, it's www.gofundme.com. Help Eliezer. That's ELEAZAR, and you can Google it too. Please donate and help the family. And thank you, and have a happy Thanksgiving, all of you.